Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to your girl channel, and today I'm literally rocking the spring vibes. I'm feeling it. Your girl is wearing the mint green eyeshadow. She doesn't usually do that, but she's doing it today because in today's video we're going to be talking about all the best palettes for the springtime. I don't know why, but I've been really excited to play with spring colors. I love when the springtime rolls around because I can pull out the nice pretty wash of color, and I just love how lighter colors look on my lids. It just looks really beautiful, and I dug through my eyeshadow palette collection, which you guys know is pretty large, and I pulled out the best palettes for the springtime. And I have a ton of different palettes that range from really affordable to more higher end, but you could get it on a sale. So if you want to see what some of the best palettes are for the springtime, then keep on watching. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with Huda Beauty because that's what's sitting on top right here. And this probably comes to no surprise, but the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde eyeshadow palette is probably one of her best bigger like palettes like this. A lot of people love this palette, myself included. It's very stunning, and I think this is one of the most, oh my gosh, I cannot get it open. My nails. I think this palette is one of the best palettes for the springtime. You have all of your really gorgeous lighter colors, and I love the shimmers in this palette. They're really beautiful. This palette just never disappoints. There are a lot of like fairly lighter transition shades in this palette, but truly this is one of my favorite Huda palettes. Look at these colors, they're so stunning. So the next palette I have is, well, I have 3 more palettes from Huda, and the next one is the one I'm wearing on my eyes today. Y'all see the green? I'm loving the green. The mint looks really good. I never really was into mint eyeshadow, but today I was like, let me wear mint because I don't usually wear it a lot. And this is the Pastel Obsessions palette. You guys, this palette is honestly really good. Like, I did not think that this palette would show up on my eyes. You guys can see the color so clearly. You know I'm wearing mint, and honestly this palette did not disappoint me today. I was playing with this palette and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many like shimmery shades in here I want to use. The other 2 are the lilac and the rose ones. We have the rose one right here. This one's also really light. It's also another really pretty palette for the springtime. I know it's kind of being washed out on camera, but I'm telling you guys, this palette is where it's at. As well as the lilac palette. You guys know I love my purples, but this palette is also really pretty. Something I found with all of the Obsessions palettes is that these pair so well with the other pastel colored ColourPop 9-pan palettes, which I did pull those today that I want to show you guys what I mean. But if you're one of those people that you're like, I don't know if one of those Huda pastel palettes are going to work for me, if you have the other ColourPop 9-pan palettes that are more pastel, I think you'll really find that these are great companion palettes, especially for like that like glossy kind of look on the lid to like top over another shade. These shades in here are really great for that. I did pull a palette from Lunar Beauty. This is the Strawberry Dream palette, and this is also a gorgeous palette for the springtime. Look at her. She's gorgeous. This was another palette I just could not wait to play with for the springtime. There's just a ton of shades in here. There's your blues, there's like your pinks, you have like a gold there. You just have some really beautiful shimmers in this palette. Like, this palette screams spring to me, so I really wanted to include this palette in today's video just because I'm like, this is a really great palette for spring. And if you've never tried Lunar Beauty's palettes, I think this is a great one to try out for your first time. The next palette I pulled is pretty neutral. It's from Dominique Cosmetics, and this is the Latte 2 palette. This one is for my neutral lovers. I feel like, of course, you guys can use like neutral palettes all throughout the year, every season, everything like that. I pulled this palette in particular because it is a neutral with pops of color, and it's pops of spring colors. So I feel like it's a really, this is like a different take on a neutral palette, honestly. But you have like your springy colors here, and then you have your neutrals to pair those colors with. So I do think this is a great palette for the springtime in particular, just because it has like those pops of color on this side of the palette. So I pulled 3 palettes from Glam Light, and I mean, come on, like, you guys, did you guys really think Glam Light was not going to be in this video? Like, really? So the first one I pulled is the mini, like, Pro Paint palette, I think that's called. That's what this one's called. But hello, Hello Spring palettes. Like, you cannot tell me this does not look like a spring palette. Like, this palette is absolutely beautiful. Like, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with this palette. This is like the perfect palette for this time of year. Honestly, like for the springtime, all you really need is this palette, to be honest. If you guys have been wanting to try Glam Light, this is a really great spring palette. But I'm also going to say the same thing about the next two Glam Light palettes, obviously, because that's why they're in this video. But yeah, so this one, oh my god, I just want to swatch some of these shimmers for y'all, just because I really want to swatch them. But if you guys are like into really blinding shimmers, then you're gonna love Glam Light's formula and their shimmers, and just in general. Like, Glam Light's shadows are so underrated for the most part, but they're so good. They're so good. I'm telling you guys, they're so freaking good. You guys have to get your hands on a Glam Light palette, because once you like get Glam Light, you're just gonna want to collect and get more and more. I'm telling you. So the next one from Glam Light is my favorite Glam Light palette of all time. This is the Ice Cream palette, and this one is like a dream. Okay, this one is literally a color lover's dream. If you love pastels, if you just love color, if you just love Glam Light, you will literally love this palette right here. Yes, it's pastel, and I know some of you guys who are of a deeper complexion sometimes have to wonder, will that pastel shade work for me? And I'm telling you guys that this palette was made specifically with people of color in mind, because the owner, Giselle, always talked about how she would always wear pastels and they'd always show up ashy on her. She made this palette with deeper like complexions in mind. And when I tell you guys, I'm gonna swatch some of these pastel shades for you guys on my skin tone so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because of course I could tell you guys about it, but I'd rather show you guys. So I'm gonna do some swatches. Let's just do it here. It's so hard to swatch. But these shades are so pigmented. Do you guys see how well these show up on my skin tone with one swatch? Like, you can't tell me this is not a good palette. Like, I love using this, and I've been pulling from this particular palette so much this time of year. I think this palette came out in the fall time, so it just wasn't ideal, but I think that had to do with like the pandemic and everything. So now I'm getting my use out of this palette. And then the last one from Glam Light is the Cake palette. Now this one is fairly similar to the paint palette. So if you have the mini paint palette, you really don't need this one, or if you have this one, you don't really need this one. So you take your pick on what you love if you're looking into like one of these two and you can't decide. Personally, I just think I get something out of both of them, but honestly they're pretty like on a similar verge of things. But this is also just another really gorgeous spring palette I wanted to include in today's video. And as you guys can see, it's bright, really great for the spring. I did pull this palette from Morphe because I do believe it's still available on the site. This is the Morphe X Maddie Ziegler palette. I think this one came out around this time of year last year, and I wanted to pull this one because this one is for those people who love like your pastel, like colors, like pops of color, but you also love your neutrals. And I just feel like this is a nice spring palette, especially if you're like really wanting to get into color and just dabble in a little bit of like lighter shades, you know. I think this is a great palette. I think it's still available on Morphe's site, so that's why I'm including it in this video. Every time I use it, I thoroughly enjoy it. And I mean, it's just so pretty. Like, it literally looks like a spring palette. Like, all the little springy shades going on here. Obsessed, okay? I'm obsessed. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into ColourPop, because I have a lot, and a lot of them are like the monochromatic palettes. You guys already know. If you think pastel, you know you could like easily go to ColourPop, get a full-on pastel monochromatic palette, of course. So I'm just gonna quickly go through these palettes. This one is the In a Trance palette, which is obviously really perfect for spring. I know it's gonna be kind of hard to see on camera, these palettes, just because they're really light and they can easily be washed out or and out. So basically this is the entire like pastel line. Yeah. Trying to see if you guys could see this on camera. Honey palette, you guys. I think yellow is a great spring color, so this is a yellow monochromatic palette. We also have the Lilac You A Lot palette from ColourPop, my absolute favorite She's a dream. She's literally a dream. We have the Baby Got Peach palette right here. Very, very light. I want to dig into this one some more, so I'm gonna make sure I sit this one out. And lastly, we have the Meant to Be palette, which is the palette I did pull one shimmer shade from and put all on my lid on my eyes today, and that's the shade Play It Cool in the corner. Once again, really hard to see. I also did take the shade Chill Factor, which is the deepest shade in the palette, and just put it in my outer corner for a little bit of like depth, you know. Love these palettes from ColourPop. I feel like they never disappoint me, because if I'm like, I want a pastel monochromatic eye look, I go to ColourPop. Like, I know, like, immediately, just ColourPop, you know? So I have 3 more palettes in total to share with you guys. The next one's from Cara Beauty. This one is the You Had Me at Aloha palette. My favorite. This one, oh my gosh, she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. You guys can find this one at TJ Maxx, so I definitely go check it out, you know, like TJ Maxx. See if they have them. See if they have the whole like pro line. But you have literally your pastel shades on this side of the palette, but then you also have your corresponding like deeper shades to match those. So you can easily just do a deeper shade, like a deeper purple in the crease, and then pack on one of the pastel shades on the lid. That's personally the style and like vibe I've been going for lately, is like more monochromatic eye looks this time of year. I don't know why. I haven't really been doing cut creases, so I've been going for like that wash of color all over the lid, monochromatic, dark shadow in the crease, and then something on the lid with a cute little wing, and I'm done, you know. Lastly, I have 2 palettes from AVH X Norvina collection. This one is the volume 3 or volume 4. Oh my god, you guys, I really hope she comes out with more of these these palettes, because I love these palettes, and every time I look at this one, I'm like, oh my god, I get Barbie vibes. Like, I feel like a Barbie every time I pull this palette. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I just think that this is a really great, pretty, like light pink palette for the springtime, and you definitely could get a lot out of just this palette. Lastly, I pulled the volume 3 palette because this one is a great summer palette, but I also feel like it's really great for the springtime. This one just has a lot of like neutrals, but also like pops of color, but the colors are like more brighter, vibrant type colors. These are more on the higher end side, but they have been going on sale a bit recently, so definitely check them out. So that is all the palettes I have to share with you guys today that I think are some of the best for the springtime. Definitely let me know your thoughts down below. What palettes have you been loving to use for the springtime, and things like that, and let me know if you guys want to see other things that are great for the springtime. Love taking your requests. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I had so much fun filming it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.